Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. Just kidding, I did. But really, let's get down to the meat of the matter. It's anecdote time.
Yay!
Hooray! Yes. Now, my story begins when I was considering auditioning for YouTube Idol. Yeah. Oh, confound it. No, that's not really how my story starts. How it actually starts is at the county fair where I went as a child. Yes, fun times, except for the one I'm about to tell you about. Yes, this time would have been quite fun like the others, but I decided to go on the Funhouse ride, which is actually a 2-story building which you walk through and each room has fun stuff in it, like distorting mirrors or mazes or squishy things to touch. Kids love it. I loved it. But apparently I was a rather short child because as I was walking up to the 2nd story, my head was under the handrail and this happened. Ugh. Instant replay. Ugh. But really, that hurt pretty bad, but it wasn't actually awful. It hurt. I got over it. I kept going. But then the real tragedy struck as I realized dark red liquid was falling from my head onto the floor. Oh, well, that's not good. Luckily for me, there was a lady nearby who happened to work there, and I walked back through all the children who stared at me and pointed at me and judged me, those darn children. And because I had to walk back through the entrance to get out, I wasn't able to go down the slide at the end. And that's the best part! Curses! But, yes, I eventually left. My parents were like, "Oh my goodness, what is this madness?" And, I went on a ride in a golf cart to the medical room. Yes, people were staring at me the entire way. Not fun, especially with my head dripping blood. Yes, that was the dark red liquid if you didn't figure that out by now. And that about concludes my anecdotal story, since you probably don't want to hear about me not being able to wash my hair for a long time after that, even though I just told you. So there you go. More information for you. Yes, alrighty then. Well, that concludes it. Have fun, children, and be sure not to hit your head in handrails and bleed all over the place. But if you somehow didn't find that entertaining enough, I'll end this whole thing with some dance. No! Thank you for watching. Good day.
One day I shall have my revenge!
This was so cheesy, but I still like it. It's amazing how you can be so expressive in your way of presenting even when you're completely covered. You are using hands and gestures to your advantage, and it's working out great for you. I think you are charismatic. Well done.
Alright, Morty, we gotta tell a little story, Morty. It's time for the anecdote part of the, competition, Morty. That was so horrible, I'm sorry. What's going on, ladies and germs? It's Steven again, and the story I'm going to be sharing is actually my earliest memory. Unfortunately. And you'll see exactly why I say unfortunately. Now, the earliest memory that people tend to have is, around the age 4 or 5. My earliest memory is at age 2. And I think that the reason that I actually remember it is because of how horrifying it was at the time. I mean, it wasn't really traumatizing because I can talk about it very easily and I won't even fret, but still. Remember when you were a kid and you discovered jumping on the bed? I bet I can guarantee every kid at one point has jumped on the bed when they were really young. Now, because I was a silly little kid, my version of jumping on the bed was standing on the edge of the mattress and then falling flat on my face. I don't know why, but I like to do that, and I always did that. Now, the bed that I had at the time, the bed that I was sleeping on, had some pretty sharp corners. Yes, I was 2 years old and I was not sleeping in one of those baby beds with the bars. Sue me. As I was saying, the bed had sharp corners, and one day I was falling on my face on the bed like I always used to love to do, and I miscalculated the landing. When I fell forward, my right eyebrow smacked the bed, and that is quite literally the last thing that I remember before being in an ambulance cuddling with a teddy bear that they gave me. So I was taken to the emergency room, and I don't know what this doctor was thinking. I had to get some stitches right along here because it was split way open. So the doctor, he takes the needle with the anesthetics and he gets ready to numb it up so that he can do the stitches. I'm pretty sure you're supposed to put the needle around the area because the doctor put the needle in the open wound and pushed before actually injecting. I don't even recall what he looked like because the entire time I had a blue cloth on my face with a hole right here. So the doctor says he'll return in 5 minutes by the time the anesthetics were kicking in. And the doctor, in fact, did return. Half an hour later. after it wore off. So without warning or really saying anything, he comes back in and sticks the needle in there again. And then everything after that is just a blur. I mean, as I said, I was 2 years old. So that's really all that I remember about that entire incident happening. And that's why you'll notice if you look closely, in fact, I'll move even closer to the camera, there's a little dip right here in the eyebrow. A little bit of hair right there, but there's a little dip right there. That's where the stitches are, right along here. You can actually feel them. That was my story, and I do apologize if it was a bit much for some people out there, but really it was the only story that came to mind because I live a pretty average life. Now it's time for the next guy, Morty. Rub-a-lub-a-dub-dub!
Oh, Jesus Christ. This was so cringeworthy, and it just got worse and worse as the story progressed. Some people just shouldn't be doctors, and I can't believe they did this to a 2-year-old kid. Anyways, you presented this with your usual humor and charisma. I may sound like a broken record, but I really just need to emphasize how much I enjoy watching your videos. You always come out with great content. Thanks, Steven.
Hallå igen, Youtubes best personality. Jag är Rohan Zener och jag välkomnar rund drä. Och mina historier jag tal är mina vänner i Norge. And yes, that is exactly why I did my introduction in Norwegian, but the story will be in English. A prelude sets the whole story in motion, wherein my mentor urged me to learn Norwegian so as to be better understood by the locals. One thing he didn't tell me was that local Norwegians, specifically adults, understood English as if they were native speakers, and later on he did admit that it was a joke, but I did so regardless. As if that wasn't crazy enough, I managed to brave the incredible cold in just t-shirt and shorts, which some coffee shop owners in Doren immediately noticed in shock. As if that wasn't weird enough, even cops commented on how underdressed I supposedly was. What I had neglected to tell them was that my own biology allows me to pull off this sort of feat. Moving on to the more important details though, we stayed in an apartment that was no more than 50 square meters in total area. God bless IKEA. Saw some sights and visited some popular museums. One of my favourites actually had to be the Viking Museum, which was also literally shaped like a boat that the Vikings had used back in their time. Which reminds me of my suggestion.
Rohan, this is really bad, simply because the music is way too loud. I could barely hear you over the music, and if I can't hear you, what is there to judge? From the little I could hear, and with the help of the pictures, it could have been an interesting story, but you really ruined it for yourself with your poor editing skills. I'm sorry.
Salutations everyone, Cody here with my entry to episode 3. Today's theme is Anecdotes. As a wise man once said,
Hello, Ed boys. Many doors, yes? Too much for couch potato Ed boys like yourself.
Now, you may be wondering, what the hell was that? Well, I believe Rolf was trying to say that life has many experiences that we all go through. Or it's just my love of cartoons going a little too far. Moving on. Anyways, I have a couple of stories to tell you, and to be honest, my life is kinda mundane. Well, except for the dreams I have. Those can range from weird to, well, pleasant. Let's start off with our first story. As a kid in elementary school, we had a summer program in which we visited the local attractions. More specifically, we went to the Speed Art Museum, the Louisville Slugger Museum, the Science Center, that place was a blast, the planetarium, and I think we even saw a movie. It was dinosaurs. It was okay. Needless to say, there was never a dull day. So anyways, when we were at the Speed Art Museum, our group was going through the Indian exhibit when the guide stopped and looked at us. He then asked, "Does anyone know what a warrior is?" So being the eager little kid that I was, I raised my hand and said, "Isn't that someone who sues people?" Needless to say, we all got a decent chuckle out of it, and I'm not bothered by it. So I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan, and I also like the Star Wars movies. Why did I bring this up, you may ask? Because Harrison Ford is one of my favorite actors. Which brings us to our second story for today. So, one night when I was asleep, I had this dream that I was walking through a second-hand shop looking for a Sega Genesis, because, well, I love old school video games. When all of a sudden, I came across Harrison Ford, who was selling tuna fish for some reason. If I had to analyze this dream, I would say that my mind is a very weird place, and that my dreams would make even Freddy Krueger quit. So our third story for today is more of a cautionary tale than anything else. At my old workplace, we used to do these annual business trips in which we would go out of town to local stores to do a special back-to-college promotion. Before work, we would all go to a local restaurant and eat dinner there. The one that we went to one year was called BD's Mongolian Grill, which really had a nice atmosphere. The way that the service works is that you're given a choice to build up your own bowl with various meats, vegetables, spices, and sauces before taking them to a grill so that they're prepared for you. My first plate went fine, but on my second one, I paid with my ignorance by combining various different sauces and spices. Needless to say, my taste buds were burning. Moral of the story, always ask before doing. Which is funny because we went to the restaurant a year later and I learned my lesson. In conclusion, life has many experiences, both good and bad. It's how we deal with it that makes us the person that we are today. Negativity can only go so far. So let's try to live life to the fullest. Because every day is a new experience, a new chapter within this ever-going book. And I hope it's a good one. With that said, everyone take care and have a great day.
I gotta be honest with you, I did not enjoy this. Now I'm starting to notice that among all the contestants, you stand out in a bad way for one reason. You are the only one who I can tell is just reading off a script. I am too, because I suck at speaking English, so I know how difficult it is to change from that. But I'm comparing you to the rest of the contestants, and for that reason you are falling behind. Reading from a script as opposed to using keywords makes it sound less authentic, and on top of that, I didn't find your topics that entertaining, especially the dream story. I generally just don't find it interesting to hear about other people's dreams, most of the time, and your other stories seemed anticlimactic. They started off good and I thought they would end in something exciting, but they all ended quite abruptly and didn't have that oh moment, if you know what I mean. Of course, there's not much you can do about that if you don't have many interesting stories from your life, but I did say you were allowed to make up a story because honestly, no one cares if it's true or not, as long as it's fun to listen to, and this wasn't. You did try to put your own twist on it by leaving messages that were supposed to be inspiring, but they were too generic.
Why, hello there. Haven't seen you in a while. I'm gonna do this in sort of the fashion that I do my vlogs, so what I call lazy vlogs, where I'm just walking around my room. So, an anecdote being a story, whether true or not true, could be serious, could be humorous. I'm going to go ahead and go with something that's very not conventional for me personally. I'm gonna discuss something serious and not try and, give a funny story. I'm going to talk about a real issue in my life that has been a real problem for a couple months now and is really starting to hurt my wallet, really starting to hurt my mental state. Just one big old clusterfadoodle. I don't think it's a secret, usually on my YouTube channels, that I live in Missouri in the middle of the United States. Now, the part about that that's important is I'm going to be a teacher. I am studying to be a teacher. Next semester I will be student teaching, hopefully. And the hopefully comes in here pretty soon. So, what has happened recently in the United States legislature is they've passed this new sort of guideline that they want teachers, and I'm sorry for pacing, that just sort of happens, especially when I'm talking about a stressful subject. They've passed this legislature, if I can get the word out, to have higher standards of teachers. So they made this new test, this new set of guidelines, and each and every state shot it down dead. Except for Missouri. Missouri accepted it with open arms. So the thing about that is we have all new curriculum, all new classes, and a whole new test. The part about that gets me is the fact that the test was implemented immediately. The classes and the curriculum still won't be implemented for another year. So my class of teachers, the year below me, and the year below them are royally raked over the coals. So thanks for that. And with these tests being $77 a pop, and nearly impossible to pass with the curriculum that we've had not being the right classes, it's just gosh dang frustrating, if I do say so myself. So in the part that makes that hopefully, the earlier part where hopefully I was going to be a teacher, is you have to take this test, not necessarily pass it, to student teach. However, come January when I will be student teaching, I will have had to pass this test. That's the problem. So I have to pass this nearly impossible to pass at this given point in time test, where it's $77 a pop, and there's a mandatory waiting time of 30 days in between each time you take the test. So that's just a load off of my mind and what I'm dealing with right now. So there's your anecdote. Not very humorous, as is my usual style. More serious, it's more Chris Rosebrough. It's more me. So, yeah. I'm going to end this like I do my vlogs, because I'm going to double dip a little bit here and make this a vlog. So, thank you all for watching me, my magical self, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.
Wow, that sucks. Not your video, but what you were talking about. It's good that you stay true to what you wanted to talk about and don't pretend that life is all rainbows and butterflies, because it isn't. Sometimes you need to talk about serious topics as well. And I can relate to this in the sense that my government basically screws up my life as well. I don't want to get too much into detail here, but I got a medical condition that made me unable to study for several years. And during that time, my government decided that some of my grades should expire, after only having them for 2 years. So even though I had good grades, I can't become what I want now. The moral of the story is that the more money you have, the more opportunities you have to succeed with your studies, no matter where in the world you live. It doesn't seem like that's how a modern society should be, but that's the way it is. Thanks for sharing your story.
Thanks for watching. See you soon with the results.
It's good that you stay true to what you wanted to talk about and don't pretend that life is all rainbows and butter.